as it is not being used. HR 9, Employee Recognition Program. The senior leadership team is responsible for employee recognition and will continue to do so on a case-to-case basis. HR 13, part-time wage classifications, was brought to council for review in July, at the July regular meeting of council, and amendments were adopted then. Administration is recommending the remaining policies remain as policies as they are legislative in nature. HR 01, which is the job training development. This has been renamed TMS 0001 and was reviewed and amended with minor housekeeping changes. Number 6, harassment and violence in the workplace, is reviewed annually and is also updated when legislation is amended. Upon review, it is noted that TMS 0015, which was adopted in June of 2019, was another harassment policy. The wording in TMS 0015 is now integrated with the TMS 0006 and will be deleted. Policy 11, hiring and employment, has been renamed to TMS 11 and was reviewed and amended with minor housekeeping changes. TMS 14, management and non-union salary administration and job evaluation and maintenance, has been reviewed with minor housekeeping changes. So the options are to approve the policies as outlined, to approve the policies with amendments, or do not approve the policies at this time. Your administration recommends that option A be selected and that the policies guidelines be approved as outlined in detail in the report. Once approved, these policies and guidelines be placed in the town's policy guideline manual.
Thank you for that report. I do have a motion that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on 2019 to 22 Strat Plan Initiative Policy Review Administration section, and that the policies guidelines be approved as outlined in detail in the report, and further that copies of the policies guidelines be placed in the town's policy manual. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Balance. Questions? Councilor Lake.
Sorry, Louise, I wasn't really listening. Could you read that again? So I'm not on the admin side, I'm on the other side. So switching from policy to a guideline to me is just kind of splitting hairs, right? One's administrative, one's thing. But going through this, did we have any epiphanies about our policies? Like, do you feel like we're in good shape? Is there need to kind of review more than this? It's amazing when you start looking through the number of policies and guidelines we have, how much business is in the town's business. So I'm just wondering if we learned anything kind of looking through it, or anything that you sort of feel like council should know from that review process.
So I didn't review these by myself. The whole management team sent them and they reviewed them with me. One of the things I think we did notice is that we have a lot of policies that should never have been policies, that they should have been guidelines. Like cell phone, why does council need to know about cell phone? No disrespect, but yeah, that's very administrative.
Yeah, so what we've learned in doing it, this is, obviously a time-taking exercise, but one that was needed, is that a lot of the work the policy work that was done for the municipality dates back to the days, and certainly Mayor Dumas would have been here, when there were a lot of committees of council, and this was a lot of work that they did was around policy development. Well, the best practice from a governance perspective, in 2020 is that council deals with policies that are legislative and governance in nature, or CAO related, obviously the one employee of the municipality, and that administration handles the other items, which are guidelines, because it gives us the ability to be efficient and expeditious in changing them as we see they need to be changed, in the context of, the daily operation of the municipality. So I think we're, once the term of council is complete, we'll have gone through all of them, and we'll, I would say we'll have a policy guideline manual, which I guess is a bit of a dated term as well. That is a modern day municipal manual that will meet the requirements of 2022 going forward.
Anybody else? So I think when you said a policy guideline manual, I think the wording could be, changed in regards to an operational aspect of governance and administrative. Make it more modern. But you're right, we used to deal with everything. I mean, our stack of paper was this high at the council meeting. Like, every item was dealt with at council, which was really silly. And that's why our meetings used to be 5 hours long every Monday night. So very interesting times. So yeah, well, that's good that we're cleaning all this stuff up. And we used to make fun of it at times when there was policies and governance models of municipalities were dating back 100 years plus. Nobody had revisited some of those policies and changed modern times, so. Councillor Lake?
And you know what, I think it's interesting too, and certainly to anybody who's thinking about running for council, which I think is a good thing to do. I think everybody thinks, oh, I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna be the one who stacks the chairs and paints the building and makes these decisions that you sort of see day to day. That's really administration's job, right? It's that difference between kind of good governance and then actually enacting that stuff is, I think, sometimes what drives people nuts, right? Because they come and see you as a counselor and say, how come, you know, my garbage wasn't picked up today? Well, that's an administration thing, and that's a big distinction, I think, for local government and for residents.
Anybody else? Good. With that being said, I call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, I have the report on the council hereby accepts the attached report on the recommendation of 2019-22 Strat Plan Initiative and Policy Review Finance Section, and that the policy guidelines be approved as outlined in detail of this report, and further that copies of this policy be, I just read that.
No, they're all separate, so
Oh,
administration.
each one oh yeah, cause you have, yeah, that's right, okay, there's separate motion in this regard, same wording pretty well on this one, but separate wording, separate motion. So, moved by Councillor Valens, second by Councillor Ingrao. Any questions of that? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And this is the same, the council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation of 1922 Strat Plan Initiative Policy Review Team Member Services Section. And further, the policy guidelines be approved as outlined in detail in the report, and further, copies of the policies guidelines be placed in the town's policy manual as presented. Moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Valens. Any questions of that section? Hearing none, call question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And next up, I have a motion for the following check runs to be approved. The following check runs be approved for payment accounts payable in the amount of $831,406.34 and payroll in the amount of $162,400.48. Moved by Councillor Zingrao, second by Councillor Lake. Any questions of the finance and approval of payments section? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Couple bylaws. Bylaw number 1988, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 1941, being a bylaw to govern the proceedings of council and committees for the corporation of town of Marathon, be read for a second time this 28th day of September 2020, and this will be going to 4 p.m. as amended, and we can revisit this in the new year if you'd like. So it can be brought back anytime for the change of the bylaw to look at. So we're going to go to 4 p.m. So the public will be notified through our website, all the media process, and on the town's policy guideline manuals. Okay, moved by Councillor Valens, second by Councillor Lake. Any questions? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor? Good. And of course, the third reading of that bylaw number 1988, be read a third time and finally passed this 28th day of September 2020. Moved by Councillor Zingrao, second by Councillor Lake. Any questions on the third reading? Hearing none, call question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And up next, we have a report on the Marathon Senior Supportive Housing Corporation pertaining to the municipal tax levy. Mr. Skorczynski, is there any update on that, or do you want to discuss with Mr. Verbo?
No, so we're looking for a decision from council today, just to highlight this issue. So initially, we envisioned the supportive housing complex being net tax zero, but MPAC has given it, has assigned a current value assessment of $715,000, which multiplied by the tax rate means it has a bill of about $21,000 in taxation owed to the municipality. Supportive Housing Corporation has asked for forgiveness in that amount. So administration did go back and seek a legal opinion from our solicitor, and I'll provide council with what he's recommending. So as a short-term solution, the town of Marathon can provide a grant to the Marathon Senior Supportive Housing Corporation equal to the amount of taxes being levied. I recommend this solution as it's a decision that'll be made in each year, which means the town of Marathon is not binding itself to incur a municipal tax bill in each and every year of the lease. An annual commitment provides greater flexibility to deal with this issue without making longer-term commitments. So recommending that it's certainly within council's ability to grant the taxation relief request for 2020 and then revisit this issue from a broader perspective moving forward, which we intend to do in 2021. I guess administratively, we have an agreement in place with the North Superior Healthcare Group in that if there is a debt incurred by the Senior Supportive Housing Corporation, we're responsible for it. So theoretically, if the debt becomes the taxation owed, the municipality is responsible for it anyway. So administration is recommending that the municipality through council provide the relief required in 2020 and that we look at a longer-term solution in terms of how we deal with taxation going forward beginning in 2021.
Okay, so before I put it on the floor, I'll get a mover in a second to put the motion on the floor. Moved by Councilor Balance, second by Councilor Ingram. Okay, Councilor Balance.
Yes, does this pose any type of concern to administration that this could be opening some sort of Pandora's box, or what would your recommendations be through administration?
No, it's certainly a one-off. It's a request that council would deal with on a case-by-case basis. In the past, we have offered these types of scenarios and requests, maybe not taxation, but relief of loans, things like that to other not-for-profit organizations within the municipality. So this is certainly well within council's ability to grant it. Hence the reason why administration got the legal opinion, so council would be comfortable in making a decision.
Councilor Lake.
Certainly, I appreciate the legal opinion. As a council, when the building was built, we were pretty clear that it was never supposed to pay taxes. I don't know, is there a mechanism by which we can leave that message to future councils? Because what I would hate to see is, we clearly had that that intention. I don't know how to pass that intention on.
So I guess I'm happy to answer that in twofold. So one is the municipality has had discussions with MPAC regarding this particular issue. And the mayor and I also brought it up with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing in that solutions such as we developed, where the municipality theoretically funded it because the province wouldn't, shouldn't be taxed at a level like this. It feels like we're being taxed twice on a building that really ultimately housing is a provincial responsibility. The second is the reason why administration is recommending we approve this in a 2020 solution only is by developing a longer-term solution in 2021 that looks beyond the current year. It means council has come up with a solution that will be applicable to other councils going forward on a longer-term basis.
Councilor Balance.
With you saying that housing is essentially a provincial problem, is there anything that we could do to push back onto the province? And if we were to then, for this year, grant it, would the province come back on us and say, you've done it last year, this is no longer our problem? Is there any type of push or pull that we can do?
I think it's the opposite. We had a very candid conversation through the AMO virtual conference with respect to the municipality funding this type of bill, and that is, it's not our responsibility in terms of a provincial priority, but ultimately council made this a strategic priority for the municipality. So we do think we'll get some traction with the province. Of course, it takes time. The mayor will advocate through his AMO channels as well. But the minister is very versed on the supportive housing complex model we developed, and they're interested in the potential of it having a broader effect across the province.
Councilor Balance.
I'm going to assume also that we were not the only municipality to have this happen to them. So is there other supportive housing complexes across the province who have also now had this, I guess, unfortunate scenario play out? And then have we reached out to any other municipalities on kind of what the direction is that they're kind of leaning in towards? Or
Honestly, the model we've developed for Marathon is the only one like it in the province. But where this is applicable is how it applies to the not-for-profit sector. So it's not just applicable to housing, it's applicable to above-ground buildings. So if you're a not-for-profit that owns a building, it's going to be assessed. Right, so it almost feels like it's going to be assessed and it's going to be taxed. Generally, a tax bill that a previous one that we would have had in Marathon would have been like the curling club, as an example. The municipality didn't own it; it was owned by a not-for-profit board of directors. So this isn't a unique problem. It's just our model is different in that it's a housing solution, which does fall under the province's responsibility.
Yeah, and you cleared up pretty well in regards to this, but as Councillor Lake mentioned, we were the charter members on the board of governance for this build, and the build was gonna always be a piece of property that was owned by the municipality. We own the manor, right? It's a third-party operation with NOSH, but we own it. We went out, borrowed the money, and we governed the model. So that's what we said to the province, we own it, like, why would it be taxed? We don't tax ourselves on our buildings. They're based on a formula, and with their funding and all that comes into play. You made mention about the nonprofits, it's a very tricky scenario, because now the taxation that comes from nonprofits is still governed by the province under the impact, but also funds the municipality's coffers. So Marathon Nonprofit, for example, pays a hefty tax bill. The Moose to Legion, now, we took the Legion into consideration under the act of the provincial government, said, okay, with the Legion suffering, try to assist them with their taxation, so we did. But the curling clubs are in prime examples, the rod and gun clubs, all those are, and we only a small community, times that by, bigger centers in big cities, how that would impact their overall budget. So one way the money's gotta come from somebody, right? So whether it's provincial or municipal, it's a very tricky scenario. This one is one we'll continue to push from the government's point of view to say, it should be just, MPAC should be saying it's a part of the property ownership of the municipality. It's just clear and free without having to go through this process each and every year. Okay? With that being said, I'll have a question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And everybody read the request from the NOSH chair. So that's good. Okay. Up next, I have a motion here from council hereby supports resolution received from the town of Amherstburg pertaining to the ODA website compliance extension, which is a further copy of this motion be forwarded to the individual listed on the originating resolution. Mover and second to put on the floor. Councillor Valens, second by Councillor Lake, and the motion is simply in regards to the Disabilities Act, extending the deadline for submissions from January 2021 because of the COVID and the amount of work and opportunities not been able to put into the process, to have this go forward to a later date. That they wanted this to go to 2022, 1 year extension for the compliance of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. And we all want to make sure that they're fully aware and available to get all information, but at the same time, there has been some delays in the acts getting implemented throughout the province. Any other questions? Yeah, sure, Councillor.
I'm just, when you think about the AODA, I think buildings were exempt that were older builds, like I think of the golf course. That's a great opportunity to build something accessible. Are there other places that feel like next on the list for AODA, or are we up to compliance everywhere else?
So the challenge is really, there's two challenges with respect to how AODA works. So, and I'll try to use two examples so it's clear to the public. So the new golf course clubhouse is gonna have to be built to 2020 standards, right? Which is fully compliant with, accessible, the accessible building requirement. The challenge with older buildings, and let's use the complex as an example, is if you make a fundamental change to increase accessibility, you no longer fall under the building code that, let's say 1976 that would have been applicable. You now fall under the 2020 building code that is required. So, if you think of when we went through the arena fire, which is, the better part of 10 years ago now, the way that space was designed was it was designed to meet the building code of 2000, and I think it was 9 when I did the fire file. So, it has functionalities built into it that, fit in terms of the space upstairs, but don't fit in terms of the rest of the building. So what we've tried to do is, things where, we can put automatic door openers in without widening the size of doors, which would bring in the modern day building code. Taking 2 bathroom stalls and making 1 to provide more space. Putting grab bars in areas that, people can utilize. So what we've tried to do is make things more accessible without enacting building codes, which carries, 6-figure type maintenance budgets with them.
Yeah, for sure. And we debated this for long and hard, and the act was trying to get everybody compliant by 2025. It's just not realistic in the province of Ontario. Some places can, but it's very tough. Okay, with that being said, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And up next, I have a request is, been received from the Office of Fire Marshal and the Emergency Management seeking, the week of October fourth through the tenth, 2020 to be proclaimed as Fire Prevention Week, and in and for the town of Marathon. And basically this one is, as we've seen in some of the banners up around town, is very well, being aware of, what's going on in your community, being committed to ensuring safety and security of those living and visiting the town of Marathon. Fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally. Cooking is one of the leading causes of fires and fatal to fires in homes. Children under 5 face higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking than burned on a cooking fire. Marathon's residents should stay in the kitchen when cooking, not running around and doing other things while their meals are being cooked with small children. And have 1 meter kid-free zone around cooking areas. Residents who have planned and practical home fire escape with their children are more prepared and therefore more likely to survive a fire. Working with smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported house fires. Marathon's first responders are dedicated in reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and fire safety education. And whereas Marathon's residents are responsive to the public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And 2020 being Fire Prevention Week theme, serve ups fire safety in the kitchen. That's a good theme. Effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking, to reduce the risk of fires. So I therefore, Rick Dumas, Mayor, Town of Marathon, do by here proclaim the October 4th through 10th, 2020 as Fire Prevention Week, and urge all of the people and residents in the community of Marathon to check their kitchens and fire hazards, and to use safe cooking practices, and to support the many public safety initiatives and effects Marathon Fire Emergency Services provide. Moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Valence. Any questions on that proclamation? Councillor Lake, good? Okay. And those banners are good. Thanks for putting them up. So all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And up next, we are going to adjourn. Prior to that, we are going right after this meeting to meet with our neighboring community, Beaton Anishinaabe, virtually on Zoom to discuss our like-minded issues in our communities. We try to get together every 3 months or so to discuss community-to-community issues and to have and continue building our relationship with our neighbors. So thank you for that, and we'll adjourn at the hour of 4:45 p.m. Thank you, and have a good night. Moved by Councillor Ingram, second by Councillor Lake. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.